This happened a few months ago when I was deep into my research about the Ellison family. I was just a regular high school junior with an interest in local history and a curiosity about the strange disappearances of the Ellison daughters who vanished on their 16th birthdays. I spent my days in the old library, browsing through dusty books and records. That afternoon felt normal enough. I could smell the old paper mixed with the faint scent of wood polish. I sat at my usual table, surrounded by volumes about the town's history. I thought I was just another kid in a small town, not special or anything. I had never stopped thinking about the Ellison mysteries, but maybe that was a mistake. I found the journal hidden away in a dim corner of the library. It looked ancient, its cover cracked and faded. I opened it cautiously. My heart raced as I read the last entry, a hurried scrawl from the last Ellison daughter. She was terrified. Her birthday was coming up, and she feared she wouldn't live to see it. That scared me. I wasn't sure why, but the urgency in her words struck a chord within me. I thought about my own birthday, which wasn't far off. As I continued to read, strange things started happening. Shadows flitted at the edge of my vision. I shook my head, thinking I was just imagining things. Maybe it was the low light, but my skin prickled. My grandma seemed distant, like she was lost in thought whenever I brought up the Ellison family. One evening, I asked her about them, and she grew grim. "You shouldn't pry into things that don't concern you," she warned in a tight voice. That felt odd, and I wondered what she knew. The townspeople were even more secretive. I overheard whispers in the grocery store, hushed warnings about the Ellison history. It made my stomach twist. I was worried about what I was uncovering. My birthday was approaching, and with every day I felt a sense of dread. Shadows followed me, and I could feel eyes on me, watching from the dark corners of the library I spent so much time in. I started to put things together, but I could never connect all the pieces. The chilling realization hit me. I was part of this story now. I found myself glancing over my shoulder, checking for something lurking nearby. Then, one night, it hit me. The last line in the journal echoed in my mind. If you're reading this, it may already be too late. I was left staring at the empty seats around me, my heart pounding. Then there was silence. I turned slowly, my heart racing. There was nothing there. Or maybe there was. I wasn't sure. I grabbed my things and rushed out of the library. But the feeling didn't leave. I felt like I was being followed. I quickened my pace, a cold chill creeping upon me. Now I can't shake the feeling that I've awakened something dark. I keep seeing shadows in my peripheral vision and hearing whispers. I don't know if it's just my mind playing tricks on me. My birthday is only a few days away. I wonder if I'll be here to celebrate. Will I become just another vanished daughter of the Ellison family? That's the question I can't escape. The next day, I decided to confront my fears head-on. I had to find out more about the Ellison family. Ignoring the knot of dread in my stomach, I headed back to the library. I couldn't let whatever was haunting me scare me away. As I pushed through the heavy doors, the familiar scent of old books wrapped around me. I went straight to the history section where I'd found the journal. I needed more context, more answers. I scanned the shelves, but nothing seemed as significant as that worn-out journal. Then something caught my eye. A small, leather-bound book was wedged between two larger tomes. It looked similar to the journal, but newer, its pages pristine compared to the weathered ones I had seen the day before. I pulled it out, hoping it contained the answers I sought. I flipped through the pages, scanning the notes and photographs. It was a family tree of sorts, showing the Ellison lineage. It included the names of the daughters. There were more of them than I realized. But, just like the last one I read, they all disappeared on their 16th birthdays. That's when I saw it. A newspaper clipping fell out, fluttering to the ground. I knelt to pick it up. The picture depicted a gathering in front of the Ellison house. eerie fog swirling around the scene. The headline read, "Another Ellison daughter missing." The article detailed a birthday celebration that had turned tragic, ending with the young girl vanishing without a trace. My breath quickened. Suddenly, I heard a faint whisper coming from the shadows of the library. It was so soft I almost dismissed it. I lifted my gaze, heart racing. I had the unsettling feeling that something was watching me. I turned quickly, but the aisle was empty, save for rows of books. My hands were clammy, and I shoved the clipping into my bag, deciding it was time to leave. As I walked to the exit, I noticed the librarian watching me. Her brow furrowed, and there was an intensity in her gaze that sent a shiver down my spine. "Are you okay, dear?" she called out, her voice a mix of concern and caution. I nodded, but her stare didn't waver. "Be careful with those old stories. They can bring trouble if you're not careful." "What do you mean?" I managed to ask, but she just shook her head, her expression unreadable. I stepped out of the library, the cool air hitting me like a splash of cold water. But even outside, I could feel the weight of the mist pressing down. I clutched my bag tightly against my side, the newspaper clipping burning a hole through the fabric. If I was finally piecing things together, why did I feel more lost than ever? I took a deep breath and looked up at the sky, my birthday looming closer. The air felt charged, as if something was about to happen. Then I heard it again, the whisper echoing in my mind. "You shouldn't have looked." My heart sank. I took one last glance at the library, a familiar chill snaking down my spine. Was I still alone, or was I in deeper than I realized? I didn't know if I was ready for this kind of truth. I walked home, uneasy with each step, the secrets of the Ellison family following me like a sinister shadow. The next day, I barely slept. My mind raced with thoughts of the Ellison family. I couldn't shake the feeling that the answers I needed were just out of reach. I decided to dig deeper, but I wasn't going back to the library. Not yet, anyway. I had to find someone who knew more about the town's history, someone who could connect the dots for me. That's when I remembered Marcus. He had lived in this town forever and spent his days talking about the past. I found him at a small cafe, a steaming cup of coffee nestled in his hands. His thick glasses slid down his nose as he peered at me, intrigued. "Hey, Marcus," I said, pulling up a chair. "Do you know anything about the Ellison family?" His expression shifted from curiosity to seriousness. "Why do you want to know about them?" he asked, eyebrows knitting together. I hesitated. Should I tell him about the journal, the whispers? Instead, I opted for a more general approach. I just stumbled on some old newspapers about them, and, well, it gets kind of creepy. He leaned in, lowering his voice. The Ellison girls were always a topic of conversation here. They say their disappearances are tied to the family curse. His eyes widened for effect. Every daughter vanishes the night of her 16th birthday. Some think it's a warning or a ritual. Others believe it's all just folklore. A chill crept down my spine. "A curse?" I blurted out, not quite believing him. Yet, with everything I'd found, I felt it was a possibility I couldn't ignore. "Do you think it's real?" Marcus shrugged. "Who can say? But I wouldn't investigate too deeply unless you're prepared for what you might find. People around here have vanished too, you know. It might not just be the girls." My stomach twisted at his words. I pushed the unease aside. "Do you have any more information? Any relatives left? Maybe someone who's spoken about this?" He nodded slowly. "There's an old woods where the Ellison house used to stand. Rumor has it that the last remnants of it are still there. If you're looking for answers, connections, you might just find them there. But I suggest you be careful." His eyes shifted to the doorway, and I turned to see the librarian from the library standing outside looking in. It felt as if she was watching me. "Right, thanks, Marcus. I think I'll check it out," I said, my voice more steady than I felt. As I left the cafe, I noticed the librarian had disappeared. I bolted toward the direction of her last standing place, but she was gone. My heart was pounding again. Did she know something about me, or was the Ellison family reflection getting closer? I made my way toward the woods, my pulse quickening. With each step, the air felt denser, filled with an energy that felt alive. Suddenly, I heard a crack, and I froze. Something or someone was definitely in there with me. Was I being followed? I gripped my bag, and for the first time, the thrill of discovery was overshadowed by a creeping sense of dread. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for whatever truth awaited me. I stood still, heart racing as I scanned the line of trees. The woods were thick, and shadows cast by the early afternoon sun danced on the ground like ghosts. The crack I heard came again, a soft rustle this time. It was too close. My instinct screamed for me to turn back, but I was here, and I needed answers. "Hello?" I called out, trying to sound confident. No response, just the echo of my voice bouncing back. I took a cautious step forward, the underbrush crunching beneath my feet. I knew I had to keep moving. Each step felt like an invitation to whatever lingered in the shadows. I thought about Marcus's warning. Had I entered a place best left undisturbed? As I made my way deeper into the woods, the trees closed in around me. The path grew harder to see, and I relied more on my instincts than the ground beneath me. That's when I stumbled upon the remnants. An old stone foundation jutted out from the earth, covered in creeping vines and moss. It had to be the remains of the Ellison house. I approached cautiously, my breath hitching in my throat. The air felt cooler here, as if the house held its own climate. I knelt down at the edge of the foundation, brushing away the leaves. Underneath, I saw what looked like a small rusted object. My pulse quickened. Was it some kind of keepsake from the family? I dug it out, and my stomach dropped. It was a locket, tarnished with age. I opened it, heart pounding in anticipation, and my breath caught in my throat. Inside was a faded photograph of two young girls, each strikingly similar, with the same piercing eyes. I felt a chill run through me. These had to be the Ellison sisters. Then, without warning, I heard a voice. "You shouldn't be here." I whipped around, adrenaline surging through me. My veins. There, standing just a few feet away, was a figure shrouded in shadow. I couldn't make out their features, but the voice was clear, stern, commanding. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. I was scared, but I wouldn't back down. "They're not just stories," the voice continued. "The curse is real. You need to leave." My instincts screamed at me to run, but I felt anchored to the spot. "I need to know what happened to them. I need to know the truth," I shouted back. "Truth comes with a price," the figure warned, stepping forward into the light. But as they did, the world around me began to flicker like a faulty bulb. The air crackled with energy, and the locket in my hand grew cold. Everything went dark. I felt a rush of air as I was thrown backward. The voice echoed in my mind, haunting and distant, as fear took hold. I could feel it tightening around me, and then nothing at all. I gasped as I jolted back to consciousness, my body hitting the cold ground. I blinked against the sharp light filtering through the trees. I was back at the stone foundation, but it felt different. The air was heavy, thick with expectation. I sat up slowly, my heart still racing. That voice had lingered with me, urgent and resolute. Were they warning me or threatening me? I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed a line I didn't understand. I needed to focus. What had just happened? I looked around. Nothing seemed out of place. The forest was eerily quiet now, the earlier sounds swallowed by a weighty silence. I stood up, brushing dirt from my clothes, and leaned down to pick up the locket. The photograph inside was still there, the girl's eyes glimmering in the sunlight. I didn't want to leave it behind, but something told me I shouldn't linger here any longer. Then I noticed it. A piece of paper stuck beneath the foundation, partially hidden by leaves. I bent down, my fingers trembling slightly as I pulled it free. It was yellowed and faded, the ink nearly illegible, but a name stood out. Catherine Ellison. I squinted at the rest of the text. It looked like a letter. Catherine, you must not forget the history you carry, it read. The curse will find its way back. Each daughter will pay. Remember your sisters. My stomach turned at the implications. The Ellison daughters had vanished on their 16th birthdays. I was now racing against time. I was already 15, only months away from the date. I couldn't ignore it, not after everything I had seen. Just then, a sharp snap echoed through the woods, and I froze. Fear washed over me as I scanned the trees again. Was someone watching? "Hello," I called, hoping for a response, but only silence answered back. I turned to leave, the pieces of paper clenched in my hand. Fist. The need for answers was now intertwined with a new fear. Had I awakened something by coming here? A rush of cold air brushed past me, making the hairs on my arms stand on end. As I took a step towards the path leading out, I heard that voice again, softer but still full of urgency. Do not forget. It echoed around me, sending chills down my spine. I glanced back at the foundation. I could feel the weight of history pressing on me, urging me to dig deeper. I will find out, I whispered to myself, my resolve hardening. I had to know the truth, not just for the sisters, but for myself. But as I turned to go, I saw it, a figure in the distance, just beyond the trees. They stood still, watching. My breath hitched, and I felt the urge to run, but this time I wouldn't. I needed to confront whatever secret lay ahead. With a deep breath, I stepped forward, leaving the shadows of the foundation behind me, but not the mysteries that lingered. The Ellison family story was not over, not yet. I stepped cautiously toward the figure, fighting the urge to retreat. They stood with their back to me, motionless. I couldn't make out any features, but my heart hammered in my chest. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice shaky. No response. I took another careful step. "Please, I just want to talk." Suddenly, the figure turned. My breath caught in my throat. It was a girl, maybe my age, with dark hair falling around her face. But her eyes, they were hollow, sunken, almost dark like the shadows that surrounded us. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice flat. "Why not?" I asked, desperation creeping into my tone. "You know about the curse, don't you? About Catherine?" Her gaze flickered, something like recognition flashing across her face before it vanished. "You don't understand. It's not a story. It's a warning." I stepped closer. "Can you help me? I need to know what happened to the Ellisons." She shook her head slowly, as if my words were impossible to comprehend. "Every time someone tries to find out, they disappear too." Disappear? My heart tumbled into a pit of dread. But I can't just ignore this. I'm one of them. I'm almost 16. The girl stiffened, crossing her arms tightly around herself, as if the air had grown cold. "Then you should leave, now." But the urgency in her eyes spurred me on. "Wait, please, I need to know why. What is the curse?" "Each daughter is bound to the protection of the last, but when the time comes, if you dig too deep, you'll lose it all." Her voice grew lower, almost a whisper. "You have sisters who care for you still. Don't leave them behind." Sisters? The words hit me like a punch. I felt a swell of emotion, confusion mixing with fear. "What do you mean?" But before she could answer, a low growl rumbled from deeper in the woods. My heart raced as I spun around, searching the darkening trees. Something was moving, something large. "Run!" she screamed, turning back toward me. But I was frozen in place, my eyes darting between her and the growing shadow behind her. That was when I saw it. Glowing eyes glaring at me from the underbrush, and a figure lunged out. I scrambled backward, nearly falling to the ground as panic surged through me. The girl grabbed my wrist, her grip iron tight. "We have to go." I didn't argue. I tore away from the shadow and followed her into the thicket. My feet stumbled over roots and rocks as we ran, branches clawing at my arms. The growling followed closely, echoing in my ears. Where were we going? I didn't know. All I felt was an instinct to survive. The figure was hunting us. As we burst into a small clearing, I turned to catch my breath. The girl was still pulling me toward a large oak tree. "Hide," she urged, pushing me down behind the massive trunk. We crouched in silence, but I could hear the thudding of my heart, drowning out my thoughts. The growl was closer now, a primal sound that sent chills racing down my spine. "What is it?" I whispered, terrified. But she didn't answer. Instead, she pressed a finger to her lips and held her breath. Then, from the shadows, a dark shape drifted into our clearing. I could see the unmistakable outline of a large wolf, its fur glistening like obsidian in the fading light. It sniffed the air, muscles tensing as it prowled closer. My grip tightened around the rough bark, fear rooted deep within me. But through the fear, a question burned in my mind. What did this have to do with the curse? Before I could voice it, the wolf's eyes flicked toward us, locking onto my gaze. In that moment, I felt the weight of the Ellison history crashing down like a tidal wave. I wasn't just searching for answers, I was being hunted. The wolf's eyes held a fierce intelligence, a knowing that sent shivers coursing through me. My breath quickened as it seemed to assess us, its nostrils flaring as it picked up our scent. Why was it looking for me? What did I have in common with whatever dark history the Ellisons bore? The girl beside me remained tense, her body rigid against the trunk of the oak. I couldn't help but wonder how she knew about the wolf. Did it hunt for her too? The wolf edged closer, sniffing the air, probing at something unseen. My gaze darted around the clearing, desperate for an escape route. But the trees loomed like sentinels, their branches hanging low, like a barrier. Then, suddenly, it lunged, its jaws snapping dangerously close. I screamed, the sound tearing from my throat, and the girl yanked me back against her as we recoiled. "Stay still," she hissed. "It can smell fear." My mind raced. Could the wolf be the guardian of the curse? Was it trying to protect me or hold me captive? A deep growl rumbled in the creature's throat, reverberating through the air. I felt icy fingers of dread claw at my spine. "Why is it looking for me?" I hissed, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I don't know." Her voice was sharp with panic. "But we have to." Before she could finish, the wolf lunged again, this time spotting the movement of my arm. I braced for impact, squeezing my eyes shut, but the girl drew something from her pocket and tossed it to the ground. "Run!" she commanded, dragging me to my feet. I followed, fear propelling me forward as we dashed away from the oak. Behind us there was a loud crunch, and I dared a glance back. The wolf had stopped, lapis eyes fixed on whatever she'd thrown, a small silver pendant glinting in the fading light. "What did you throw?" I panted, desperate to know if it might save us. "The family protector," she said, glancing back slyly. "A charm." As we dashed through the underbrush, I felt the weight of the girl's words settle in. A protector? Instinctively, my hands reached for my own necklace, the one Catherine had given me before everything went dark. Could it be connected? The growls faded, but so did the light. The woods around us seemed to close in, shadows thickening, wrapping around like a suffocating cloak. I didn't know where we were, but the air felt charged with a sinister energy. "Where are we going?" I asked breathlessly. "To the river. We'll find shelter there," she replied, urgency lacing her tone. But as we turned a corner, I saw something unexpected. A flickering light ahead. A small cabin stood nestled against the riverbank, weathered and old. Hope surged within me. Maybe we could be safe there. But then, from behind the cabin, a low growl echoed. It was deeper, darker than before. My heart sank. We might have escaped one danger, but another was waiting. "What now?" I gasped, the panic re-emerging. "Trust me," the girl said with fierce determination. But as we moved toward the cabin, I felt the weight of my sister's fate loom above us like an unseen beast. I had to know what was going on, but every step felt like walking blindly into a trap. The darkness was thickening around us, and I could feel the elements of the curse ticking closer, preparing to ensnare me. We reached the cabin's door, but it hung ajar, creaking softly in the breeze, an ominous invitation. The girl hesitated, her eyes darting around for any sign of danger. I was nearly gasping with fear at the growl I'd heard, but adrenaline pushed me to act. "Shouldn't we go inside?" I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. "Yes, but we need to be quiet," she replied, gripping my arm. "We don't want to attract anything," I nodded, swallowing the knot in my throat. We slipped inside, and I quickly glanced around. Inside, the cabin felt ancient. Dust motes danced in the fading light, and the smell of damp wood hung heavy in the air. We found ourselves in a small living area, cluttered with old furniture and faded photographs hanging crookedly on the walls. My heart skipped as I recognized one family portrait, a woman who looked strikingly like me in a frayed lace dress, standing beside a man with the same piercing blue eyes as the wolf. "Do you see that?" I asked, pointing at the photo. "Yes, I know about the Ellisons," she said flatly, taking a step closer to the picture. Before she could finish, I heard the sound again, the deep growl. It came from outside, closer this time. My heart raced. What if it finds us? "It won't," she assured me, but I sensed the uncertainty beneath her calm facade. Then something crashed against the back of the cabin, rattling the walls. I jumped, my breath catching in my throat. "Hide," she urged, and we ducked behind an oversized, tattered couch, the fabric scratching against my skin. I held my breath, my mind racing, trying to make sense of the chaos around me. The growl deepened, rumbling like thunder. Heavy footsteps followed, and the door creaked on its hinges. I bit my lip, staying still, hoping whatever was outside would lose interest. The girl beside me was tense, every muscle in her body coiled like a spring. "Do you have a plan?" I whispered, panic rising again. "Just wait," she murmured. Seconds felt like hours as the footsteps grew louder, unmistakable now. I squeezed her hand, willing strength into her. Then the cabin door burst open, and the light from outside flooded the room. A shadow loomed in the doorway, blocking the light. I caught a glimpse of something large and dark. It wasn't the wolf, but I couldn't make out what it was. Please, I thought desperately, not now. The figure stepped forward. I couldn't see its face well, but the outline seemed vaguely familiar. My stomach twisted. "Find them," a voice barked. It felt jagged, like the growl of the wolf wrapped in malice. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The pieces of a sinister puzzle I hadn't wanted to see were aligning. "Who is it?" I breathed, but she didn't answer. Just then, a faint glimmer caught my eye from the corner of the room. I turned slowly to look, and that's when I saw it. a brass-bound box half hidden beneath the couch, as if it were beckoning me. With an instinct I couldn't ignore, I released my grip on the girl's hand and slithered toward the box. The growling grew ever more agitated outside, but I felt an urge pull me closer to the mystery that might hold the key to everything. I reached for the latch, my heart hammering. What, secrets were locked inside? But as I lifted the lid, I heard the girl's voice behind me, urgent and terrified. "What are you doing? Get back!" Before I could respond, the growling stopped suddenly. An eerie silence filled the air. Then I heard a scream. It echoed through the woods, cold and chilling, slicing through the quiet like ice. In that moment, I realized that nothing could have prepared me for the truth that was about to unfold. As the silence enveloped us, the lid of the box fell open with a soft thud, revealing a collection of old letters and a small, intricately carved pendant. My fingers trembled as I reached inside. The weight of history pressed around me. Years of secrets, buried fears, and tragic stories trapped in the wood of this cabin. "Don't!" the girl hissed again, her eyes wide with alarm. "Put it down. We need to focus." But I couldn't. The pendant pulled at me, almost like it recognized me. I lifted it, and as I did, an icy gust swept through the room, sending shivers racing along my spine. "Look!" I shouted, holding it up. The pendant glimmered, its delicate engraving swirling with a strange light. It felt alive in my hand. I could almost hear whispers, faint voices begging to be heard. The girl's eyes widened even more, but suddenly the tranquility shattered when a loud crash echoed from outside, followed by intense footsteps pounding toward the cabin. My heart raced as the shadows moved closer. Whoever or whatever was after us was no longer just a distant growling threat. It was here. "Put it down. We can't be in here when they come," she insisted, her voice sharp with urgency. I hesitated. There was something about the pendant. Was I meant to find it? "What if it helps us?" I replied, searching her face for understanding. Before she could respond, the door flew open again with a bang. The figure, the shadow from before, was now inside, silhouetted against the dim light of the evening. "They are in here! Search every corner!" it barked. The voice echoed with a mix of authority and something darker. I recognized it now. It was the same voice I had heard screaming moments ago, twisting my stomach with fear. I quickly shoved the pendant and letters back into the box, barely managing to close the lid. "We need to move," I whispered urgently. "Where?" she said, glancing frantically around the room. "Out the back," I pointed toward a small door that led to what appeared to be a kitchen, further away from the intruder. We crawled low under the window, trying to remain hidden. Time seemed to slow down as heavy footsteps thudded across the cabin's floorboards. My heart felt loud and wild, beating in rhythm with the footsteps above us. The girl took a breath to steady herself. "What if they see us?" "Then we run," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. But I knew running would only lead us deeper into the woods, where I'd first heard that dreadful growl. Just then, the figure paused, and I could feel its attention shifting. The tension crackled in the space between us. I held my breath, heart pounding in anticipation. The figure lifted its head slightly, as if listening. Suddenly, a loud crash resounded from outside, breaking the standoff. The figure whirled around, rushing towards the sound, leaving the door slightly ajar. "Now," I urged, and we slid out of our hiding spot. The small door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit space that smelled of mold and must. My instincts kicked in, and I pushed my way through, the girl following close behind. We burst into the kitchen, and I felt a surge of panic as I slammed against the wall to stay out of sight. My mind raced. The pendant, the scream, the dark figure. It all meant something more, something I didn't yet understand. But before I could think about it further, I heard something.
Another scream, this one much closer. A voice shouting urgently pierced the air. "Help! Help me!" Every nerve in my body screamed for me to turn back, to seek safety inside the cabin. But I knew we had to find out what was happening, to face whatever threat awaited us. I took a deep breath, bracing myself. "We can't leave until we know what that is," I said, my voice steadying. "We have to go." The girl looked ready to argue, but her eyes betrayed a shared resolve. We exchanged a determined glance, united in our decision, and darted out of the kitchen. What lay ahead remained unclear, but one thing was certain: we were not alone, and the night was filled with more than just shadows. We stepped into the woods, and the moment we crossed the threshold, I felt the air shift. It was thick, buzzing with a strange energy, and the trees seemed to lean in closer, agitated by our presence. The distant screams echoed again, drawing us deeper into an unknown danger. "Where do you think that's coming from?" I whispered, my voice trembling as I glanced at the girl beside me. "I don't know, but it sounded desperate," she replied, her expression grim. "We can't move too slowly. They may be closer than we think." As I grabbed her hand, we hurried down the narrow path. Every crunch of leaves beneath our feet echoed like a warning, but we pressed on, driven by a mix of fear and determination. Soon, the voices grew louder, a mix of cries and pleading whispers that sent chills racing down my spine. The sound was almost unbearable, the agony palpable. "We have to help them," I urged, pushing forward despite the rising dread in my chest. The cries guided us to a clearing, and we stumbled upon a horrific sight. In the center stood a gathering of women, their faces shrouded in shadow, encircled by flickering candles. They wore flowing white garments,
their hands raised as if casting a spell. At their feet lay something writhing, moaning, a girl, no older than I, bound with ropes, a look of sheer terror in her eyes. "Let her go!" I shouted, feeling my heart race. But the girls in white paid me no heed, too lost in their ritual to notice our presence. "What are they doing?" the other girl whispered beside me, her face pale. "I think they're reenacting whatever cursed them," I responded, my mind racing. "We have to stop them." The feeling of urgency pushed me forward. "Get ready to run," I told her, the intensity of the moment amplifying my voice. "We can't let them take her." As we plunged forward, the girl on the ground looked up, her eyes wide. "Please, help me," she cried, her voice thick with fear. Before we could reach her, one of the women turned sharply, her gaze locking onto mine. "You shouldn't have come here," she thundered, a commanding presence that made my heart leap to my throat. "We're here to save her," I stammered, trying to hold my ground. "We need to end this." "End it?" she laughed, though it was devoid of joy. "You are the next link in a long chain of choices. Each daughter must carry forth the curse. It's how our kind survives." With that, the air shimmered around us. Shadows began to twist and converge, swirling into a dark fog that enveloped the clearing. I could feel its cold tendrils grasping at my sanity, tightening around my chest. "Run!" I yelled to the girl beside me, panic seizing me. But she seemed captivated, unable to look away. "Please, help me!" The bound girl screamed again, desperation lacing her every word, breaking through the overwhelming darkness. It jolted me into action, and I darted towards her. But the shadows thickened underfoot, threatening to pull me under. "Hold on," I called out, reaching for her hands. "We're getting you out of here." "Leave her. It's too late," the shadowed woman growled, and a sudden gust of wind threw me back, slamming into a tree. I gasped for breath, head spinning. The girl beside me found her footing, pulling me up. "We have to go, now," she urged, glancing back at the chaos unfolding. Ignoring the voices around us, we bolted back into the underbrush, tearing through the forest. The anguished cries faded behind us as I thought of the girl left behind, feeling a stab of guilt mix with fear. As we darted further into the thick woods, the oppressive air began to lighten, the chilling darkness losing its grip. We finally stumbled into a small clearing, panting, and collapsed against a tree, the adrenaline still coursing through our veins. "What just happened?" I gasped, trying to catch my breath. "That was real," the girl beside me offered, her voice trembling. "But now we know. We can't just give in. We have to find a way to break this curse." I looked into her dark eyes, and the weight of the moment grounded us. I thought of all the Ellison daughters, all the shadows that haunted this town. Their fates were entangled with mine, and I had become part of their desperate legacy. "I don't know how," I admitted, "but we need to figure it out, before my birthday." The girl nodded, the determination in her gaze matching my own. There must be something left, something to guide us. As we regained our composure, I felt a rush of urgency mixed with fear. We were tangling with forces beyond our understanding, but the truth loomed closer now. I thought about the pendant resting in the box we had found. Whatever secrets it held, it was a key to aligning the shadows of the past and finding a way to end the cycle of despair. "Let's go back to that cabin," I said suddenly. "We have to uncover what else is hidden there." "Are you sure it's safe?" The girl hesitated, but I could see the conviction mirrored in her eyes. "We don't have a choice," I replied, determination swelling within me. "I will not become just another name on the list. We'll fight." So, hand in hand, we ventured back into the darkness, ready to confront whatever awaited us, uncertain if what we pursued was supernatural or simply the dark corners of our own fate. But we were ready to face it together.